Welcome to the Paint Bar at Golden Artist Colours. I'm David and this is Jordan, and we're here to introduce to you the brand new line of high flow acrylic colors by Golden.
If you're familiar with the Airbrush Colours by Golden, you'll recognize that the new high flow is very similar, and that's because the high flow is replacing the Airbrush Colours.
But there are a few differences. The easiest place to start is with the name high flow. It was the best way that Golden could describe the physical properties of the paint. If you can imagine heavy body as a really thick, buttery consistency paint, and if you understand that fluid is a pourable paint that has the intensity and opacity of the heavy body, then the next logical step towards a very thin, liquidy consistency paint is the high flow.
What makes the difference is not just the viscosity, but the additives that help with the absorbency, and it slows the drying time down just a little.
And it's the flow with that slow drying time and the lower surface tension that always made airbrush colors work so great in an airbrush. But the high flow works fabulously through the airbrush, and it still has those great characteristics.
Of course, but there's a problem with the name airbrush because high flow works really well in other ways, including using technical pens or refillable paint markers. I love these markers. High flow works really well in them, and they don't stink like the solvent-based markers that you would use in your studio and need a fan. And the great thing about these is you're using real acrylic paint that's compatible with other acrylic paints.
So high flow is in, airbrush is out. And so what we've been really talking about though is how they have been similar, airbrush and high flow. But what's the big difference? And the big difference is color. The high flow line has 49 colors. It's a great range of color.
Yeah, the colors are amazing. The brand new palette is incredible. Obviously, front row and center are the fluorescents.
But the coolest thing about the high flow is the detail you can get. Because of its ultra low viscosity, it just flows out beautifully.
Absolutely. And now that you mentioned viscosity, have you noticed that when you're painting, it's like a different feel between some of the different colors?
Yeah, and with the iridescence and some of the earthy tones, the pigment particles are a little bit larger. They don't have quite that inky feel, and I don't think they would work as well in the super technical pens, but they work beautifully in the larger markers.
Right. And the Golden Technical Support Team has used all the colors in different kinds of pens, and for the list of those, you can check online.
The other thing artists using this paint can explore is the compatibility of high flow with other gels and mediums. The bloom effect that some of the old airbrush colors would have is still there in most of the high flow colors. And the beauty and joy is finding your own way, combining your own methods and techniques of gels and different paints. But a great topic with high flow is its new stability over airbrush. It doesn't have that same sensitivity to water and ammonia.
I never had any problems mixing my airbrush.
I guess problem isn't really the right word. If you were using airbrush colors through your airbrush or as a straight pour, you probably wouldn't have noticed anything. The high flow is just designed to have a more stable paint film. It's not going to lift and it's not going to bleed.
But however, you still have a little bit of time if you want to re-wet your high flow, depending on the absorbency of the surface that you're working on. I'd say about half an hour until you have a completely solid paint film. And then you have all the new colors that line up perfectly with our heavy bodies and our fluid.
Yeah, and there are a couple new colors for pen-based artists like the indigo and the sepia.
I know these are ink names, but high flow is an acrylic-based paint. It acts like ink when it's wet and it dries like acrylic.
Right, it's an ink-like paint that can do a whole lot of things.
Absolutely.
So high flow is a totally radical new paint line with tons of potential and possibility for exploration and experimentation.
Yeah, so much more than we can show you here today on this video.
And if you have any questions, feel free to contact Golden's technical support line or the website.